Well, at Club Menangle tonight, we honour one of the greats with the running of the Group 3 Kevin Robinson Free For All. And these famous set of silks behind me, the white with the pale blue diamond and pale blue sleeves, carried a victory many, many times throughout his great career in harness racing, which spanned over 30 years, and then as a galloping trainer for a further 2 decades. I'm joined by one of his sons, Chris, to have a chat about his career, his brothers Terry, and also paying tribute to his famous dad. Well, Chris, great to catch up with you once again, and particularly on this night we celebrate the career of one of the true legends of harness racing, Kevin Robinson.
Yeah, it's an absolute honour, Mick. So blessed that the Harness Racing Authority been able to do this at Club Menangle and everyone, and it's such a special night for the whole family, mate. Brings back the best memories of our lives.
I was going to say, the memories must just come flooding back when you see those famous set of silks, the photo of your dad and his record.
Yeah, unbelievable, mate. Dad was, our idol, as you know, and growing up and learning off Dad was just our greatest gift. And being part of our amazing family, mate, we're just so lucky.
You just mentioned learning off your famous dad, Chris. What was one of the major lessons you learned from Dad?
Oh, look, there were so many, but I feel like, a lot of the best horse trainers work their horses hard, but I suppose it's like anything in life. You never stop learning. So you learn different stuff along the way, but Dad's image and the way he presented horses was just immaculate, and I think I took a lot out of that.
You've just taken the words straight out of my mouth. He always turned up immaculate, tie, shirt, suit, beautifully polished shoes, and his horses were the same. He took a lot of pride in his appearance and the horses.
Yeah, and it showed, in his ability as a horse trainer and as a person, like he presented himself, and he was just unbelievable.
Chris, one of 12 children. My little task for you tonight is name them all and their birthdays, in order.
Oh, okay. Really?
No, I'm not going to put... I wouldn't doubt that at all. Chris, he was always a very patient man with his horses, and always said that you speak to a horse through kind hands.
Yeah, it was a great gift. He had great hands, and horses just ran for him. I used to love working horses with Dad, because if you knew when you were going out to work a horse with Dad, he'd come out with the goggles on and the little cap and the stopwatch, and you knew you had to be on your game, otherwise he'd leave you behind, because they just ran for him, like he just had a great gift.
Working those horses along 7 Mile Beach, and he used to wait for the tides. He'd be very particular. The tide had to be just right before he started working those horses. He put down a lot of success to 7 Mile Beach.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that was where we had a lot of luck with bad-legged horses, and I'll never forget, he got us up. We went to bed about 8 o'clock or something. He said, we're going to get up. We had to gallop at midnight one night because the tide was actually with a full moon, and we couldn't go there during the day because there's too many people going on the beach. So we went up and galloped this horse at midnight. It was the greatest feeling because the moon just shone over the water and was eerie. We just couldn't believe it. We were doing it at 12 o'clock. There's a few people on the beach going, what are these people doing? But just one of our many, great times together.
His career started in 1953. He was still a dairy farmer at the time, and the horse by the name of Mount Fitton commenced his career as a winning trainer driver. But it was a horse called Regal Gold which set him on the road to stardom.
Yeah. Well, he actually ended up naming his business after that first horse, Regal Lodge, and it just progressed from there. Nick? Yep.
1968, fond memories, Inter Dominion firstly.
Oh, unbelievable. I just never forget running around the house like little mice. We were running up and down the hallway and screaming our heads off, and when Dad came home it was even better. Like he greeted us all at dawn, he was chucking little wheelies with us all, and unbelievable.
Chris, it was a golden period of harness racing in Harold Park for the horses we had, and also the trainers and drivers like your dad, and then you had Kevin Newman, Vic Frost, Joe Wilsley, J.E. Binskin, Laurie Moles, Clary Sweeney. The list just goes on and on of the greats. Did you think we ever appreciated at the time that they were on the road to stardom?
Well, look, as a kid growing up, that was the pinnacle, going to Harold Park and just being amongst the crowd. It was just the excitement you'd never see it again, it was just unbelievably part of that crowd. And to see all those greats just performing, it was unbelievable. They were just unbelievable horsemen.
When you used to go to the trots, in particular Harold Park with Dad, was there any one of those greats that you used to idolise, get stary-eyed about?
Idolise the greats?
Yeah, which one?
Oh, look, there was too many of them, but I suppose I just idolised Dad because I just thought he was the best, you know. But then, you know, he got ones come through, like Brian Hancock, you know, for instance. When Brian came through, like, he could do anything, you know, like, and, there's too many to name. Too many to name.
What about some of the great horses? Frosty was one of my favourites, along with Under a Cloud, but he drove Gammalite, Koala King, Bill Student, Spike, Dylan Light, and once again, Chris, we could go on and on.
Yeah, well, one of my fondest memories, I think, back in the day was when Dylan Light had his first run back after 13 months. He'd done a couple of tendons, and it was a stand and start race, and Dad was off the front, and Hondo was, I think, about 20 or something like that, straight the front, and then he went 5 in front down the back. And we were like little nippers, and we were just jumping up and down, going crazy. Go Maxie, because his stable name was Max. And Hondo come out of the pack, and they went down the straight, and it was a photo finish, and no one knew who would win because everyone was going for Hondo, and we were just going, go Maxie. Anyway, he got the verdict, and it was the greatest. I think it was one of the greatest nights I've ever experienced on a harness racing track.
Chris, when he ended his career in harness racing, like, he did everything. But the one thing he didn't do was win a Miracle Mile. He contested about 7 or 8. Did he retire from the industry with regrets that he didn't win that particular one?
Oh, I don't think so, Mick. I just think it's part of the game, you know. Like, he had a lot of success, and that's the way it goes, I suppose. You know, like, I never won a Miracle Mile or anything like that. So, contested in Dominion, I haven't had the luck to go into a Miracle Mile, but you know, that's the way it is.
He joined the thoroughbred industry and again had plenty of success. 1996, his greatest success, the AJC Oaks with Ken Bell, and won the Frank Packer Plate the race after with Mr. Piper. But he won 1 Group 1 race, 2 Group 2s, 5 Group 3s, 415 winners, 837 placings. He was just a master horseman.
Well, that was another time, Mick, when Ken Bell won. That was one of the greatest parties we've ever had in my life. I'll never forget Dad coming out of Royal Randwick. It was like he was floating on air when she won that day. And then to win the race straight after, well, when we got home, it was the greatest night at the pub I've ever experienced in my life. Group 1 Wiz was jumping all over the bar, and we went back home after the races. You couldn't get a seat in the house. All these people that we met came home to watch the replay. It was, Dad was just, he was the best.
Either side of your dad's photo, J.E. Binskin, Vic Frost, just to name 2, they knew how to bring off a plunge.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Oh, well, they were just great horsemen, and they just knew when their horses were right. And back in those days, you know, when Dad could get a horse to get away from the start, and that was a big advantage. So you could have a bet back in those days, because if you drew out the back, we can get them away, you'd be in front before the rest knew what they were doing. So he had a great gift of getting horses away, and then he ended up and that changed when mobile racing came in, because it lost the great uncertainty about it, because if the horse drew well, it sort of took a bit out of it, you know, like the other runners, so it took that bit of doubt out of the game, I suppose.
When your dad decided to leave harness racing and go into the thoroughbred industry, he handed the baton over to Terry, who did a wonderful job in harness racing before now enjoying a lot of success as a galloping trainer, who then passed the baton on to you.
Well, I suppose so. Tez was his right-hand man all the way through. Tez is just, I rate Terry right up there with Dad, as a driver and as a person. I wouldn't have had the success I have if it wasn't for Terry. I'll tell you a great story. I was having a beer with Dad one night, and I said how good a driver Terry is, and Dad said, this is what my dad said. He said he's a better driver than I was. So what a compliment that was. So that's what he thought of Terry. So, and I was, like I said, Tez he's up there with the old man.
And he's still working hard.
Oh, unbelievable. He gives us such a thrill, Tez, that we just love what he does for our family, and he's been there for us. He was there for Dad through all the tough times, and go on the trots with me and then go on the race the next day. We wouldn't be here only for Terry, like what he did for this family, mate.
Chris, when you walked away from harness racing, was it because of lack of opportunities or just burnout or a combination of things?
Oh, I just sort of, you know, I had a really good lot of owners, and at the time, I don't know, I just lost a bit of confidence in the game, and I just felt like it was time for a change, you know, like it's a big commitment harness racing or racing altogether, it controls your whole life. My wife Kaz brought up our 4 kids, and like she didn't have her mum's support because she'd passed away when Leah was only young, so she didn't put her kids on anyone else. So I just wanted to try and give back to her, mate.
Well, Chris, the Robinson name has been synonymous with greatness in harness racing and the thoroughbred industry, but in particular this wonderful sport of harness racing. Your dad, onto Terry, and then onto yourself. It's been great to catch up with you, to reminisce about the good times, about Dad's career, Terry and yourself's involvement. Great to see you.
Thanks, Mick. Really appreciate it, mate. Cheers.